Riverside.
Good morning, Mr. White.
Good morning, Mrs. Angel. How are you today?
Glorious. I am red-faced.
You're glorious, are you?
Yep. The weather has changed just a touch here in Queensland.
Yeah, it's dropped from 24 degrees to 23 degrees in Queensland, hasn't it?
Did drop below 20 the other day, Mr. White. We had our winter woolies out, I'm not going to lie to you.
I think we got up to 15 today. That's how we're going in Melbourne at the moment. Pretty chilly.
You've turned a corner. Winter is here and it's coming sometime in the next few months in Queensland.
Yes, for a day.
It is. We have an awesome guest joining us today. We have Emily joining us. Thank you so much for coming along.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for having me.
We are going to find out fabulous things about Emily and her amazing career as a teacher. I'm going to let you know first up, though, the primary school that Emily attended is Our Good Lady Council in Deepdean. And what the secondary school that she went to was Genazzano FCJ College, and she went to university at the University of Melbourne. Mr. White, tell us a bit more about Emily.
Emily is the IB coordinator at a private girls' school in Melbourne. In fact, the very school at which I teach. She grew up in Melbourne, has lived there her whole life. She's in her 9th year of teaching. She teaches history, English and literature. She's passionate about helping students to achieve their best, whilst also teaching them how to manage stress and balance study with their own well-being. Emily has an identical twin, which causes her to feel that she needs to tell students this so they don't think that she's ignoring them if they see her in the street. She finds it very hard to switch off from work, but she is working on it. She loves watching TV and eating nuggets in the bath, which I think is the best bio we've had so far. Welcome, Emily Biernacki. Great to have you.
Hello, Emily. I think you've just solved world peace, actually. You've created world peace with that right there. I haven't done
more
it.
People would just
Not
sit
gonna
down
lie,
and watch
hadn't done
Bridgerton
it.
and eat nuggets.
It's going to happen, though. It has to happen now.
Yeah.
Genius. So, Emily, tell us who the teacher is that has had the biggest impact on your life.
I would say that the teacher that's probably had the biggest impact on my life would be Mr. Linehan, who was my year 12. Well, I was in year 11 doing 3-4 history and its revolutions. And sort of he was that year, and the next year was Mr. Watt, who was my philosophy teacher. So definitely great big thinkers. Sort of everything that they did was about questioning you and making you look harder into what you were thinking and sort of telling you were wrong in the best way. And I just wanted to become a teacher from the time that I had Mr. Linehan, whose daughter was actually in our year level as well, and who I caught up with a couple of weeks ago at a friend's wedding that was in our year level. She was like, "Oh, my dad's always asking about you." I was like, "Oh, I can't believe he remembers me." It's like, he's a celebrity. He knows who I am.
That's very, very cool. And do you know, is he still teaching?
He actually, so the sort of serendipitously, he retired from being a Revs teacher the same year that I started. So the year before, I sort of sent an email in the Revolutions Network chain saying, "Hey, I'm new. I'd really like some help." And he emailed back saying, "I can't believe you're a teacher. You always said you wanted to be. I'm so proud of you. Here are all my resources. I'm actually retiring this year, but take the mantle and keep going." I was like, "Oh, I've achieved my life's work."
What a gift. And from a hero as well, getting all of those teaching resources, that is a massive gift. That
100%. That's great. So he taught you how to think and to question yourself and to find truth that way. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, I would say that. I think probably a lot of teenagers feel like they know everything. And I was always the kind of kid that got really good grades and, breezed through year 10. And I got to year 11, I was like, I'm going to smash this. And then you get to a year 12 subject and you're like, oh my God, this is actually really hard. And I have to do way more work than I thought I did. And I remember I have such a distinct memory of someone saying in the first lesson, so Lenin was the leader of Russia, and I wrote down Lennon, like John Lennon, not Vladimir Lenin. And the year 12 next to me laughs and is like, "You've got so much to learn." And I was like in my head, I'm so smart, like it's fine. And I feel like from that point onwards, I realized how little I actually knew. And just the vast amount of knowledge he had, and the way that he even marked our work was so constructive. And I think that was such a change for me. And I remember it so distinctly because I was the kind of kid that always got A pluses. And for the first time, I'd get like a C on a practice sack. And I'd be like, oh my, what? And he's like, yeah, no, you have to answer the question. It doesn't help if you just know stuff. You have to be able to write that stuff concisely, and you need to answer the question being asked of you. Like, just knowing things isn't enough. And it was such a like mind-blowing moment. But the fact that he was kind of the first person to say it and to help me to see how it could be actually done really, I feel like, changed my life.
And to genuinely be better.
Yeah.
But you could receive feedback, and I know that I have given feedback to kids in my career, and we didn't have the relationship for them to receive that feedback in the constructive way that I was delivering it. So there's actually a relationship that is required there for him to be able to give that constructive feedback, for it then to be taken on in that particular way. Because our job as teachers is to give feedback, but it's about the best teachers are the ones that are able to give the feedback that the kids can then actually digest and then actually enact. So that's the superpower, it sounds like, that he had.
Exactly. And to make you feel like what he was saying was constructive, and like it wasn't making you feel lesser because you couldn't do it, but in fact made you feel like you were able to do more, and he trusted you to do more, and that felt like you were more capable. And I think that's the big difference from a teacher who just goes, oh, that's wrong, and this is wrong, but you have it inside of you to get it right, and this is how you can get there. And I think there's such a big difference in that.
That is absolutely hitting the nail on the head. And that's why robots won't ever be able to be teachers, because it's such a finesse of knowing when to give the feedback and how to give the feedback, and in which chunk to give it first, and how much can I just, all of those things. And should I be making eye contact as I'm giving it, or not making eye contact? And is this okay with somebody standing behind them to receive it, or is this something that needs to happen afterwards, or like will they get more of a kick out of it if I make a joke in front of the whole class? Because you don't want to get that one wrong. That one can spectacularly backfire on you if you misread that one there.
Yes.
But so there won't ever be robots being able to actually do the spectacular work that teachers actually can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a bit about your role that you currently are in, and the spectacular kids that you are working with, and the kind of outcomes that they're getting.
Spectacular staff that you're teaching with as well.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I'm IB coordinator, which is the International Baccalaureate. So it's a program that is not that, I guess, big in Australia, but definitely overseas, especially in places like Europe. It's come out of the UK. And it's just another year 11 and 12 sort of graduating, I guess, system. And I've only just come into it this year, and it's been a bit of a whirlwind. It was kind of my dream job without me knowing that it was, until I started at this school, because I had only ever been familiar with VCE, which is the Victorian Certificate of Education, which is the one we do in Victoria. And that's the one I went through at school, and it's the one that I taught up until a few years ago when I started here. And this system, I really didn't know that much about until I did placement at another school when I was at uni, and they had this system, and I just remember being like, what is this? I had no idea education could be this way, because it is really different from, I guess, the one that we have in terms of how self-driven it is, and how autonomous the students are, and how focused on things like being a globally minded citizen and international mindedness, and just being a good person, which is kind of like part of the assessment, which is wild to me, because that's not what the system I went through is, and it's not what VCE is when I teach it. It's a bit more rote learning, sort of you're doing the subjects, whereas this is about becoming a different human. And I became obsessed with it. And I didn't work at an IB school for a few years because it's pretty difficult to do straight out of graduating. And so when I started here, I was like, I need to get into this. I have got to teach the IB. And sort of luckily for me, a couple of IB teachers who are doing English or like literature, which is what I do, retired. And I was like, yes, I can fill their place. Yeah. So here I am after a series of happy accidents.
But you haven't just come in to teach the IB. You're the head of IB. That's a pretty steep. That's a pretty steep learning curve. And
yeah,
how much was it of a steep learning curve? Was it, or
it still is? I'd imagine.
Yes, it's not just a was; it's definitely an is. I think because I've taught it for 3 years, so I obviously have an understanding of it, but I taught IB literature, which is like year 11 and 12 literature, not too dissimilar from teaching year 11 and 12 in terms of just doing a subject and you're familiar with that subject. And it's a whole new grading scheme. You get grades 1 to 7 instead of getting an ATAR and whatever it is. But this year has been such an enormous learning curve because you're sort of the only person at your school that knows what you're doing. And so the person I've taken over from, she has gone to another school and I have her number and I text her way too many questions being like, I don't understand this tiny intricacy. But you feel pretty alone because there's no one else at the school that knows how much you do and they don't know the answers to any of your questions. And you really just have to spend hours and hours looking up tiny little things in millions of documents. And it's a huge workload and you really have to bug other people and make a lot of network connections with like the other ones in the same state and sort of the Facebook page online where I've gone and anonymously posted my little panics when it's the day before an exam. I'm like, oh my God, help. I don't know what the answer to this question is, but I can't ask anyone. What do I do?
So you don't have a local network necessarily, but it is such an international program that is so prevalent overseas, and it is growing more so in Australia. But there's so it does mean that your network has to be a global network, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is really cool. Like there is a local network, there's a Victorian network, but it's just pretty small. And obviously you can't lean on the same people all the time to ask every question because you'll burn all your bridges. So it is like all of the training we've done and the PD we do, most of it's online and you learn with people from the UK and the US and South Africa and Russia and the Ukraine, which is, dramatic. And you kind of it's cool because you get to learn what different systems are like, not just in Australia but in around the world, and entirely different problems that are in the policy that you would never think about. Like there's whole policies for if there's a civil war and if something breaks out in your country, this is what you do with exams, and like if there's a natural disaster, this is how you deal with it. How much can you pause exams? How much can you give students leeway if there's something? And they're just the sort of things that I think, well, that'll never happen. But then you see someone posting on the network being like, we just had a massive flood in my town. We can't run exams. We've applied to IB for this. What have you guys done? And someone else replies saying, yeah, we had a massive fire in my town. You're like, oh my God, like the world is much more vast than I think you give it credit for in the education system itself. Like people obviously are getting educated all over the world, but then like I haven't really thought about that until this role. The fact that, of course, someone in a tiny little Indian village also is going to be being educated, but in the same system that my high SES all girls private schools are. It's crazy.
But which is so cool though that this diploma that they're all getting is respected and equal anywhere in the world. So that is the big point of difference with the IB, that this piece of paper gives you credibility all around the world. Everywhere. Not just it's not a VCE or and I said VCE because you guys are both, it's not an ATAR from Queensland that you go to the Ukraine and go, well, I got an ATAR of 99. They go, well, we're very happy for you. Well done. I'm sure your mum's very pleased with you. Whereas you talk about getting a 45 on the IB diploma, and people, jaws will drop and doors will open for you all around the world, which is obviously the point of doing the diploma.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned before, Emily, that it's a program that supports the development of individuals to become citizens of the world and more rounded in their understanding. How does it actually do that? How is it structured in a way that supports that growth?
So on top of, I guess, firstly, you have to do 6 course like subjects, and it has to be one from each discipline. So unlike VCE, where you can be like, I love English, I'm going to do English, I'm going to do literature, and I'm going to do history and philosophy, you have to be a well-rounded person because you need to do a maths, a humanities, an English, a science and arts. So because you have to do one of everything, I feel like you're already being exposed to more points of view that at a higher level than you would be in a different system. Then on top of that, they have what's called the core, which is there are 3 different things that you get assessed on. So one of them is called CAS, which is like a community service, and you don't get a mark on that, but you have to sort of once every couple of weeks log that you've done something creative, something that's active, and something that's service. So you're forced to maintain your physical well-being, your community service, and your creativity, and that you can't pass the IB without that. If you don't pass CAS, you don't pass the IB, you don't get a diploma. So you're already forced to be a well-rounded person. And then there's also a subject called TOC, which is theory of knowledge, and it's everyone has to do it. You do get a mark for that one, and it's kind of like a philosophy. How do we know what we know? It's forced critical thinking, and the students find it so difficult to begin with, and then they just absolutely love it. They become such logical thinkers because they have to learn how to say what their point of view is, and they have to be able to do it in a logical fashion. They have to be exposed to multiple points of view, and it's not like they just do it for the assessment. They end up loving it because who doesn't like fighting and learning how to be right about it? Like, it's just like, why wouldn't you want to do that?
They're learning for the sake of learning. Like there is that. Is it one mark or
Yes.
how many marks?
So there's 3 marks that you get for TOC and your EE, which is your extended essay, which is far more like a university style 4,000-word research essay. So you get an extra 3 marks on top of your 6 subjects, which are all graded out of 7. So that gives you those all added up, give you an extra 1, 2, or 3 marks, depending on if you get an A or a B or a C in each of them.
Fabulous. So 42 marks are up for grabs, 1 to 7 for your 6 subjects, and then your 3 marks are up for grabs with TOC and EE.
Yes.
And the EE, so talk to me a bit about the EE and what kind of things the students are writing about in that extended essay, because I know our great Mr. Will White has been a mentor for students EE. Is that right, Whitey?
Yeah. What do they call it? Mentor?
Supervisor.
I don't know. Supervisor. It's great. It's very student-led, but it's great fun. Can you take us through a bit of that, Emily, please?
Yeah. So it's a 4,000-word research essay.
To be fair, that doesn't sound like fun. I'm just going to... Mr. White just said it's a bit of fun.
No,
and you've led with it's a 4,000-word essay.
But the fun bit's about to come.
You've got work to do here, Emily, to make this fun, all right? Just letting you know. You're starting behind the starting line. Go for it.
Sell it.
So it is completely a student-led inquiry into something that they are passionate about, and going in with the line of being able to make an argument about something you truly believe in and care about. You get to pick an EE in either one of the 6 categories of the subjects that you do, or world studies, or you can combine them. And so you get to pick a research question of basically anything you want, and you have to conduct research over sort of about a year is how you do it. And you have a supervisor, and so you form a research question, and then you have to find evidence for that research question, sort of do a literature review, and then write an essay where you make an argument in little subsections. And it's the great thing about it, I think, is that it's something you have picked, no teacher. And the point is that we supervise them when we might say, oh, it'd be a good idea if you did this, but it is really about, it's all up to them. And they learn real university skills, which I don't think you get in any other opportunity, because, you go to university and you do a research essay and they're like, oh, you should have used more sources. And why didn't you tell me that earlier? Like, oh, you should figure it out yourself. Whereas this is teaching you those skills that you're going to use in university, but someone is actually there to hold your hand. But at the same time, you're kind of doing it all yourself, and you get to engage in these really critical discussions with students at a really high level, but they still have to come up with all the thinking. And it's sort of like at the end, it's so difficult, but it's this beautiful process of learning who you are as a learner, how you learn, getting to actually do things yourself. And then there's a reflection part of it that you get marked for, where you have to write reflections saying where you stumbled. And that's such a great part of it, because You
So
have to
good.
reflect
The reflection.
on your challenges, and you get marked on your ability to say, I had a terrible question to start with, and that made me think I needed to do this. And so I needed to take this other step to rectify that. And it just really encourages that critical thinking where I feel like in the VCE, kids often say, why do I need to write an argument and language analysis, which is like in English, you analyze a newspaper article. I'm like, it is not about being able to do the task. It is about the thinking. We do not care if you come out of it being able to do the task. We care that you come out of it thinking, I will question what other people tell me. And I feel like that's what this whole essay does. It teaches you how to question what other people tell you and to say, no, well, this is actually what I think, and these are the reasons for it.
And having a forum to do it, yes.
Yes, and it really is fun to supervise as well. But it is. The thing that I love about it is most times you're teaching a subject and you've got an amount of skills and understanding to get down, and you're sort of you're pigeonholed, and I've got this week I've got to cover this, next week I've got to cover this, and you're sort of moving and moving. With the EE, you get to work with the student or students for a year or just under a year, and because it's so open-ended and it's so up to the student to define their own topic and to explore their own horizons, it changes and it morphs. So whenever a student comes up with their first topic, the first draft of their topic, per word perfect, and they start exploring it, they realize, hey, I actually want to go this way, or the evidence is pushing me in this direction. So it's actually, and you use the word process, Emily, and I think that's exactly what it is. It's not about the ending, and it sounds all, and I'm going to hate myself for using the word, but it's a journey. Like it's not learning those skills
You've
of
changed,
being
Mr. White.
I know of being scholarly, inquisitive and pushing the envelope, but you get to do it on your own terms and in an area that you are interested in. So I love the way it's fired by interest to start with. It's
absolutely
brilliant.
Convinced me. And so I get it, because they're learning all of those skills, but in this absolute area of passion and interest and support. And then when you get to university, it's not always like that. I didn't know that we were interviewing Emily on the weekend. And on the weekend, I was reading an article that came up on LinkedIn that was talking about the diploma, the IB diploma. And some data has come out again recently to talk about the success of students at university and the markedly increased level of success that comes from a student who has completed the IB diploma. So I feel like you've summed it up really well, Emily, as to I'm convinced that is why, because they're given time to do these things in these areas of passion where they are able to learn these university skills in an area of support. And then when they go to university, not all subjects that you're going to study at university are deeply in your passion area. If they, you don't get to pick every subject in your degree, so you have to do some subjects that they're not going to be as passionate about, but you're being taught how to do that work prior to actually stepping foot into university, which is very cool. And I still think that the coolest thing though is that then you can take that IB diploma and then go and do university. You can pretty much get it into university anywhere around the world, because that IB diploma is respected all around the world, which is super, super, super cool.
Yeah, exactly. And we do have a lot of students who go apply with it to like things like Oxford and Cambridge, which I think sound like fake. And I didn't ever think anyone in Australia applied for that before I started working at this school, because it is a pretty high SES, and I'll say the highest SES school in the state. And you don't really think about the fact that these opportunities are available for people in a country that's teeny tiny and unimportant like ours when you think about the global scale of things. And it's kind of nice to know that there is that opportunity. I mean, if you have money.
Yeah, you don't just walk through the doors of Oxford and go, I am here. The Aussie is here.
Represent.
Aussie. Just listening to that reverberating around the courtyard of Oxford.
1,000-year-old courtyard.
I mean, I haven't been there. I'm assuming there is a courtyard that you could reverberate your Aussie around there. Emily, I know that you've had an awesome career and you've made a difference in lots of kids' lives. As I play the sting for a magical moment, I'd like you to think of, share a moment with us where you know that you've made a big difference in a student's life.
Magical moment.
I knew you'd like that, Emily. Carry on. We've spared no expense on our stings. Carry on.
So I used to, before I worked at this very lush school, I worked at a couple of government schools, but the government school I worked at before this was definitely a different clientele to the one that we work for now. A lot of students who it was my first or second year, and I had this group there's a co-ed school, mostly boys though, and this class I had was just, like you couldn't write them if you tried. And I had actually done one of my placements. We did two at uni, and one was at the fancy school that did IB, and one was at this government school, where I remember sitting in the back and writing down quotes, because that's what you're supposed to do, write down what students say, whatever. And I remember writing down so many swear words. I was like, oh my goodness, does this happen in this place? Oh my gosh. My little bubble just immediately burst and shattered. And it just so happened that this kid, he was in year 8 when I did placement. He ended up being in my year 12 English class because I ended up getting a job at that same school I did placement at. So this same kid who'd been in the same class, where in year 8, I had been like, oh my God, I have never come across this before. And he's sort of a sweetheart, but a real rebel. And so what had happened is that he was in my year 12 English class, but really the fact that he was coming to school every day was pretty impressive. His home life was quite difficult, and he'd gotten into a little bit of trouble with the law and drug dealing and kind of that thing. And one day he came to me, and he was in my year 12 English class, not the top student, to say the least. And he came to me and said, oh, look, something happened on the weekend and I really just need an adult to help me. And I was like, I'm 22. Like, what do you want me to do about it? And he was like, look, you're the only adult in my life that actually thinks that I've got any potential. I need you to write a police reference for me to say that I am not a terrible kid, because I really don't want to go to jail for this thing that happened on the weekend, because he had stolen a car, gotten drunk and wrapped it around a tree. And I was, again, quite a novice, and I just couldn't even believe that. He was like, well, I just remember you teaching us in year 8 and you were so nice and you've been my teacher all year, and I think you're the only adult in my life I can trust. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of responsibility. So I had to, and of course I did. And I wrote this letter saying, he's a good kid. I think he makes terrible decisions, and I think he's had a hard life that has led to those decisions. But I do think that if you give him the opportunity, he will make up for it. And I think that just stuck in my head as a moment where I thought, okay, well, it doesn't really matter that he hates English or geography or whatever I was teaching him, but it's the impact that I had on him, that he thought that he could come to me as the only adult in his life. And I was a 22-year-old graduate, and I think that just stuck in my head as this life-changing moment where I thought, oh, what I do actually matters to someone. I just think of him as the kid that I have to move every 5 seconds and put him in a seating plan, even though he's 18 years old, and put Post-its on the thing so he doesn't smoke in the back of the classroom like he has done. But you feel like you're actually...
But he was seeing you as the adult in his life who is taking the time to move a seating plan, to make sure that he can do learning, to let him know that he shouldn't be smoking in class, and that he, and believing in him that he can get this assessment piece in, and he can write a piece of writing that is quality and meaningful and worthwhile, and willing to spend time with him. And that's fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
That's amazing.
Did he stay out of? How good was your piece of writing, Emily?
How
persuasive was? What was that?
He said he didn't go to jail. He did have to do some community service time.
That's a win. That's good.
Probably good for him.
He managed to stay in school, and he managed to finish year 12. So I thought,
oh, wow. Amazing.
Absolutely fantastic.
Amazing. It really does highlight the importance of teachers just in general. I mean, people talk about, you need to learn your arithmetic, you need to be able to spell and all that stuff. But really, the number one role of a teacher is to be a human, be an adult. And to build relationships with kids. That's an awesome story. I love that. And I love that he didn't go to jail. That's great, because I was worried about what your answer might be. But well done.
I mean, I don't know where he is now. I'd love to find out.
Yeah, well, that would be
Well,
absolutely fantastic.
yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
love to say that we'll get our deep divers onto it, but
We
I know
cast a
that
pretty
it'll
wide
shock
net
you,
here
Emily.
at Teachers Change Lives.
We don't have a team of private investigators here at Teachers Change Lives podcast. I know it's been a very professional outfit since you have linked. I know. It's our logical next step, but
Yeah.
we don't have one on board as yet. But when we do, we're coming back for you, and we're going to find that student.
Yep.
I feel like that kid might have given you a couple of teaching tale stories, so I reckon you're going to have a teaching tale in there somewhere. So thinking about what that might be.
Teaching tales. Dun, dun, dun.
Give it to us. Go, Emily.
Well, I mean, I've sort of given away the ending a bit. But so it was actually this kid and another kid, two kids who were, I mean, one of them was sitting exams, one of them wasn't, sort of just had to be there. But, I mean, they were not destined for greatness in VCE English. And we used to have this little classroom behind our classroom. So it was sort of like we had classroom, and then in between there's these tiny little rooms that used to get used for I don't know what, but there were just these storage rooms. And then there was a room next to it. And as I said, he could be a shithead. So I had actually picked him out while I was doing exam revision. I used to say to him, and like this is something I could never do at our current school. I used to say, "You're shitting me up a wall. You need to get out." And he'd say, "Yeah, fair enough, miss," and go sit in the back. And so I had the two of them in this room, and I'm, teaching about bloody Oscar Wilde or whatever it is. And then out of and I had, stupidly enough for me, closed the door, and because they were making noise, these two boys, and out of the bottom of the door, I just start seeing this like smoke seeping through the bottom. Everyone starts giggling, and I'm trying to ignore it because I'm, everyone in the class is giggling, and I think, oh God, I told a little funny joke, great teacher. And then they keep giggling. I'm like, okay, no, I'm not that funny. And I walk in, and this kid flicks a cigarette out as quickly as he can out the window. There's a little window to the locker area, and so it falls behind the lockers. I can't actually see the cigarette, but, it clearly smells like it. And I don't know what to do. Again, 22.
22.
And I said, I don't care where the fuck you go, just get out of my sight. I said it exactly like that, which is the first and only time I've dropped the F-bomb in your classroom. And I was just like, are you serious? And this kid, to his credit, doesn't run away. He marches himself straight to the principal's office and is waiting for me after class because he knows he's done the wrong thing, and that I never swear and I never get angry. So you pissed me off. And I walk out of the classroom, and so we've still got 10 minutes left of class. I can't go meet him there yet. So I just clear one of the desks and I lay down across it. And my glasses watching me, and I just take off my glasses and act like this. And I go, what have I done? Why did I get into this? Can anyone answer me? Why did I become a teacher? Like, needless to say.
Oh, Emily, we have all been there, my friend. We've all been there.
That's beautiful.
Either publicly or privately, just questioning your life decisions. I have absolutely sat in front of classes where that, like, whatever's just happened, and then I've dealt with that kid, and I've just come in and I'm like, I've got nothing. I'm just going to stand here blank faced. And then it's amazing how quiet the class will go, like just silent as you are silent, just looking. Like, oh, is she going to pick up something and throw something? Like, what? We have no idea what's going to happen next, but we are here for it. What?
Yeah, that's right.
And in those moments, you've never got the kids more in the palm of your hand, as
Great
in that
class
moment.
today, miss.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
They don't teach you how to deal with that at teacher school, do they?
Yeah,
No.
I didn't cover that in my shoot on poor behaviour. They just said to you,
and they're locked in the room behind you, and it's filling with smoke. This is what you should do. This is what you must do. This is what would be nice to do, and this is the don't do.
I reckon lying on a table, rubbing your eyes and asking, what did I do to deserve this? Why am I teaching? Is the right... I reckon that's...
I would say that's a must do. Actually,
I reckon on a scale of things, that's pretty good.
If I was teaching that unit, I'd probably play a little video and go, did she do the right thing? The answer is yes, she did,
The answer is
people.
yes.
Yes, she did. In that moment, there is no right thing to do because we didn't get taught how to do this. All
No.
right?
But look, it is a warning. So if that's a daily event, then that's probably a red flag. But, if it's once a decade, once a career, you're fine.
What a story.
What a
Yeah.
story.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a ripper. I do
It's a
like
great
that
story.
one.
Second only to the flip cup phase where a kid in my school before that tried to play the flip cup with a mug. And I said, what do you think is going to happen when you flip that? He was like, I don't know. Let's find out. Flipped it, and obviously it smashes into a million pieces. What?
So you quit as a physics teacher and became an English teacher.
Yeah,
That's
and that's when I
genius.
switched to English. Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
So good. All right, we are running out of time, and I don't want to miss out on making Mr. White look silly. So we're going to play a little game called Say What.
Mhm.
What did I say?
What?
That is what I said.
Very good.
Thank you. All right, this game,
Seamless.
Emily, it goes like this. I'm going to ask a question. You're going to think of the correct answer in your head. We're not going to tell Mr. White that. He's going to answer first. And then you're gonna
we all know all the only reason that I have to answer first is to give padding so Emily can Google the answer. We all know.
No,
we all
no,
know
she's going
this
to
is
keep deep eye contact with me the entire time. And so you can say higher or lower, and then you can see just how close you can get to that number as well.
Mhm.
All right. So we're going to start with, we're going to say last year, how many Australian students did the IB diploma?
Last year, you say?
Last year, yes, 2023. And so what Mr. White likes to do, Emily, is he likes to ask lots of padding kind of questions
While I Google on my phone.
whilst he Googles. But we watch him deep. We watch him deep eye contact.
There aren't
Thank you.
There aren't heaps. There aren't heaps.
Excellent.
There are
Great.
a number of schools in Australia that run the IB, but they're not big numbers.
No,
I'm
they
going to
aren't.
say.
So round about what number would we be looking at then,
So you're
Mr.
after
White?
a number. You're after
I am
a number.
after a number as
And
per
that
the game.
Number equates to the number of students in Australia
In Australia, correct?
complete the IB or attempt the IB. What?
And you've got 5 seconds
All right.
to give us your answer.
I'm going to say 18,000.
Wonderful.
Emily's shaking her head straight away.
This
Straight
is the
away.
fun part of the game,
Oh,
Emily.
shit.
This
It's
is the fun
1,800, isn't it?
So Emily, would you like to say higher or lower for
No, you have to give a number.
answer?
You have to give a
You would
number.
say
5,600.
5,600. That's good because you're so much closer than Mr. White because it is 2,646 students in Australia.
2,000?
2,646. It was on January 3rd. There was 404 students in New Zealand, and there was 20,365 students worldwide last year who received the diploma.
No. 20,000 worldwide?
It's not very big. Not very popular.
20,000 worldwide?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we need
Together
to make
with
this
the
thing
20,385 students worldwide received their diploma program and career-related program results from the November 2023 examination session. So there is, I'm assuming there is the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere. But to be fair, Mr. White, if I was to double this number, I would pretty much be bang on Emily's number. If I was to double this number, I'd still be about 100 times less than your number. Anyway, that's the first question. So Emily,
because maths ain't your thing.
Emily,
I win.
That's
Emily,
one. That's one. It's best of three.
That's one.
It's
It's
best of three.
Excellent. So the next question is: How many countries?
How many countries?
How many countries do the IB diploma?
How many countries offer the IB diploma? Okay.
Sorry, over how many countries? So
over how many? Over one.
Okay, you can go over one.
Over one? Hey, am I wrong? Okay. No. I'll have a stab. Okay, how many countries? I reckon it's about 52.
52 countries.
Wonderful. That's a better face, Emily. Emily doesn't know what to do now.
Is it more countries than that, Emily, or is it less countries than that?
My guess is 50, like 6 or something. But then, am I just saying that because I thought 5,600? Maybe that's why I thought 5,600. But
Ooh.
my guess would be, 48 to 60. So I'm going to say 56.
So you're going to say higher than what Mr. White said?
Oh, well,
Fine,
that means I'm
right.
wrong, doesn't it?
Perfect, because it is over 150 different countries.
150?
Over
That is more than-
150 different countries do the IB diploma. Obviously, not a lot of students in each of those countries, if there is the 20,000 that are finishing the diploma. But I mean, in your school next year, how many will get the diploma?
35.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I know the school that I used to teach at, it was a number of, we offered the QCE and ATAR, and then there was IB diploma as well. There was about 50 kids who was doing the IB diploma. So it's not a massive cohort. So it's always a very bespoke cohort that is doing it, but in over 150 countries. All right, here you go. We're going to go Emily's quite clearly the winner here, but we're just going to go a fun little last one just to see if Mr. White can go even close.
Just to rub it in. All right,
So,
all right. Need to
as we
save
all
some
know,
face.
it was founded by a group of teachers in Geneva, in Switzerland. We all know that. Obviously, it was in what year was it, Mr. White?
Yes. The Geneva Convention of International People coming up with the word baccalaureate. Geneva is a city.
Country in Switzerland. Well done, Mr. White. Correct. We've been there, but
yes, and I've met someone from Geneva.
Wonderful.
What year was it made? I reckon it to me, it stinks of the 70s.
Does it?
1976.
Oh, is that the year you were born, Mr. White?
No, I was born after that. Thank you. Not much after that, but I was born after that.
Not much at all, Mr. White.
I'm hoping the IB is older than I am. Yes.
Beautiful. All right. So
1976. Come on.
So Emily, is the IB older than Whitey, or is it younger than Whitey?
I think if Whitey's 44,
45.
it's older. 45?
Older? Yeah, cool. So you're saying that it's older. Excellent.
I
because
think it's
it was
like 50 years.
50 years from now?
No, like yes. I think it's older than that. I think it's only slightly older than that.
Well, good job, because it is only reasonably older than that, because it was Mr. White would actually say it's quite older than that. 1968 actually is 1968 is when the IB was founded by the group of teachers in Geneva, Switzerland. And how cool, like, I just want to pause for a moment and I want to salute those group of teachers in Geneva who made the IB, International Baccalaureate curriculum, which is now a curriculum and a diploma that is recognised worldwide. A group of teachers came together at some stage and said, hey, guys, let's do this. And then they did it. How cool is that?
Yes.
Amazing.
And I think we're seeing impacts of this still come through. I know that the VCE now offers a subject that incorporates the idea of EE. And I think more should do it. I think it's a fantastic
What is it called? What is that?
It's called, do you know what it's called, Emily?
No, I don't remember.
It's
but
something. It's not a rip-off, but it's a rip-off. It's
so
something
like TOC or the EE.
Oh, no. It's
Like
EE.
Oh,
yeah, it's
cool.
like the EE. So students have to write an essay that they spend the year on, sort of thing. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yes. I don't know how many words, but look, 4,000 words for an EE, and when you're in year 11, year 12, because it goes over the year. How many essays at uni did you write that were over 4,000 words? Very few. And not until third year, I reckon.
Is that a thesis? Is that a master's? I don't have one, so I don't know.
It's more than any unit at undergrad, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I remember the most being like 3,000 words in my undergrad.
Yeah, 2.5 to 3,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, it's quite an undertaking, and it's it's very structured in the way you have to present it, and each different discipline has their own way. It's a fantastic learning curve.
Sounds good. Look it up if you are in Victoria, and can our Queenslanders have a look at that, because the report that I read just the other day really espoused how important that particular part of the IB diploma is to set people up for success in university. So
Well, they've already done it. You know, they've already done the stuff that these kids in first year uni have never done before. You know, they've already done it, and they've done
they
it.
have the skill
It's a
set.
third year standard, not first year.
And
Yeah.
the data coming out of if you get through your first year of university, you're so much more likely to get through more, the whole university degree. It's that first year where that kind of makes or breaks the student for sure.
Yep, definitely is.
All right, Emily, I could talk to you all day. I had lots of other questions, but you've got a bath to run, you've got nuggets to eat, and you've got an episode to watch, and I don't want to encroach on that anymore.
Yes.
You have taught me a life lesson today, my friend, and I too am going to go run a bath and go and make that dream come true. So thank you very much. How can anybody reach out to you, or if they wanted to find out more about the IB diploma, what should they do to find out more information about that?
Oh, good question. Well, I mean, you can always just email the podcast because Will has my number. So ask the podcast and they can ask me. But also you can just go to the ibo.org, and that is where you can find information about the International Baccalaureate, which really is such a wonderful system. It's great. I would suggest.
Fabulous. Mr. White, how would they contact us if they wanted to contact us?
We are on all the socials. We're on the Bookface and the Tick spot.
The talking of the Tick and the
and I'll get this right.
Space.
We are also on email if that is your preferred poison, and our address is teacherschangelivespodcast@gmail.com. It's only taken me a year.
I don't care what people say about you, Mr. White. You've come a long way, a very long way.
Lifelong learner.
It's always a pleasure to do business with you.
You too,
Emily, you have been an absolute delight. Thank you for the work that you're doing with your kids and in education, and that our young friend who pushed you to the brink, but not beyond the brink.
Yes.
He taught you some life lessons. Yeah. And Mr. Linehan, who has obviously set you up for such an amazing career in teaching. I'm so glad that you chose to be a teacher.
Absolutely. And thank you for being an amazing colleague. Your intelligence, how kind and generous you are inspires me every day. I love that I'm a mate of yours, and I love I get to work with you every day. It is fantastic. Thank you very much for being you.
Choose teaching, people.
Choose teaching.
All right. We're going to talk to you again sometime, Emily.
Yes. Come back. Yes.
See you, Mr. White.
Powered by Riverside.